Hi all, welcome to a video for day 2 of the 2014 Aintree Festival. I hope you followed some of the ones yesterday. We obviously got first and second, first, second and third actually, the TriCast in the Fox Hunters. Had some other good each way ones in there as well, the likes of your Jetson and your Caliph Aramis. And even the ones that didn't win, Calypto ran a great race for us. First Lieutenant ran a decent race, I think. So no, I hope you were on. I'm going to quickly scoot through day 2 now because I'll probably be back there again later. But yeah, 2 o'clock. Joss's Hill is the favourite, and rightfully so. Second in the Supreme Novice to Vautour. Pretty hard race that though, so it's 6-4. He should win, but you know he's had a hard race and he's had quite a hard season, Joss's Hill, and that's got to catch up at some point. He beat Sergeant Reckless fair and square at Cheltenham, and I'm really struggling to see that horse changing, turning the form round on him. Apart from this time, he does have the champ AP McCoy on it. He's got some decent form on flat tracks, but he got beaten quite easily first time out by the likes of Amore Art, who hasn't gone on to do great things. And yeah, he's beaten him a few times. He's won well on in the Jumpers for Bumpers race, but that doesn't mean anything to me really. So while he should run a decent race, Sergeant Reckless, I'm happy to take Joss's Hill against him. My idea of the horse I would back in this, there was Art of Payroll for Desi Hughes, a really big hold-up horse like Paul Carberry. It's his favourite type of ride. Did it to perfection yesterday on Guitar Pete. Won very well at Leopardstown last time out. Came there on the bridle and scooted away. Time out before was hampered at the wrong, really bad stage and ran on well. The trip will be no problem. He likes a flat track. People have said, you know, oh, we need soft ground, I don't think so. He's won a maiden hurdle very, very cosily, hands and heels ride on his hurdle debut. He's done well in point to point in good ground as well on his one that he's had there. So I actually think that Art of Payroll at 7-1 he is actually now. That's my idea of a bet there. Looking for a massive outsider here. Have a look at Gentleman John for Colin Tizard. He's 40-1 at the moment. Beat the Green Ogre last time out. The Green Ogre's gone on and won since a decent race at Ascot. So if you're looking for something, a huge price to have a go at, that might be the one to look at. But for a 1-2-3, I'd have you go for Art of Payroll to beat Joss's Hill and Sergeant Reckless. In the Malmay Novice, all 6 horses in this are very, very good. We'll start with O'Fairland's Boy. Won the RSA very well at Cheltenham and won the time before at Ascot. A bit in and out form earlier this season. And the one thing I do have a worry on this, he had a very tough race at Ascot, and he's had a very tough season all in all, O'Fairland's Boy. He's got better ground today than even that he had at Cheltenham, and he coped well with it at Cheltenham. Although I think being by Oscar, a slight more dig in the ground might be up his street. Plus the hard the season he's had, I'm actually going to take him on today. I think he'll run his race, but I think I'm happy to take him on. Holywell's done very well last time out, though. He's an out-and-out stayer. I think this quicker ground and a shorter trip than at Cheltenham and a flatter track might work against him, but he should run a race. Don Cossack, I'm still not convinced he fully stays 3 miles. He fell when going perfectly well at Cheltenham, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong in that behind O'Fairland's Boy when he fell at the 14th. But then over in softer ground at Leopardstown, he just didn't seem to stay. But then you could argue, I suppose, you know, he's got some form over 20 furlongs at Galway back in October where he won very, very easily. But I don't know, there's just something about his overall thing. I just don't think he fully stays. That 3 mile trip is my gut feeling. So I'm happy to oppose him today. Many Clouds was brought down in the RSA. Van was second to O'Fairland's Boy before then. Though a lot of his form is on softer ground, and while I love the horse, I just don't think today is the day to be backing Many Clouds. I just don't think so on there. Just a Par's interesting. The 2 odds-on defeats that he's had this year have both been on bottomless ground. But last year, over this course in the Sefton Novices Hurdle, he came second to Fisher's Cross, staying on well on the running. First time up this season, he was beaten easily at odds-on by Shotgun Paddy, again soft ground. He then bounced back at Newbury and won easily from third intention on better ground. He then run no sort of race again on heavy ground at Kempton. And then it was going okay, but weakened very, very tamely at Cheltenham. You've got to forgive that. And in a little race like this, when there's other value around, he should run a decent race just a par, but I just don't think so today. The first string for Nichols, though, does seem to be wonderful charm. Didn't seem to stay, people say, in the World Hurdle last year, but that was his first run for like 5 months. And he's taken to fences very, very well. Last time out behind Taco and DeSeal, he was hampered badly 4 out and lost probably 5 or 6 lengths, and then stayed on really well up the hill. Unix Andre yesterday in the manifesto was Frank the form. And Wonderful Charm, I think he's worth another go back up at 3 miles. If you actually look at it, it's only his fifth or sixth race of the season, and he's running a lot of little 4-horse, 5-horse races. So these little fields seem to really suit him. So I'd be happy to go with Wonderful Charm today for a 1-2-3 Wonderful Charm for Mo Furlan's boy, and I actually fancy Just Apart to run into the first three today. Big racer today is the Melon Chase, and the horse that I like here is the horse that I actually tipped up at 20-1 in the Champion Chase, and that is Module. He was up there, dropped back, and then stayed on again, rallied under pressure at Cheltenham. The way he rallied to just 2.5 miles is the trip for him. It really reminded me of a horse about 10 years ago called Native Upmanship. Native Upmanship came third to Flagship Uberalis in his Queen Mother, and he came from nowhere, stayed on all the way up the running, couldn't get to Flagship that day, but then turned out at the Melon Chase and won very impressively next time out. Module's got that similar profile to him, and I think he's got a really, really good chance today, Module. About 5-1, you could even back him each way as well, so I think that's a really interesting bet. Next up in the betting is Rajdhani Express, who came third to Dynast, yes, at Cheltenham. The form of that was slightly let down by Dynast. Once again, like I said yesterday, I was happy to oppose him because I just don't think he strings two together. I don't think Dynast was at his best yesterday, even though he ran a perfectly good race. And with Rajdhani Express, I don't know what it is. Even the time before that at Cheltenham, he stayed on. And he seems to stay on up the hill at Cheltenham, so I think the return to a flat track may not be in his favour, I must be honest. So I'm happy to go against Rajdhani Express today. Ballynagore was very, very impressive at Cheltenham. Well, you can't get any easier. Won 8 lengths from Colour Squadron in the handicap. The one problem again is, though, he doesn't string 2 good races together. You're taking a massive leap of faith that he's going to do it again. French Opera has been running okay for the Henderson Yard, but his best days certainly seem behind him. While a horse of very much interest to me is Days Hotel for Henry de Bromhead. Beat Tona Dudery on soft ground over 2 miles. Never even come off the bridle really. Last time out in February, so he's fresh for this. But the one issue I do have is that all of his form is on soft and heavy. Being by Oscar, he should stay 2.5 mile. And the interesting one is he's often made some jumping mistakes when the ground is quickened up in some of his races, and even back to like last April when he got headed. This was at Fairy House. He got headed by the likes of Foil Dub when he made a mistake, etc. So he could actually run a decent race at about 10-1. Boston Bob is just, I don't know, he just doesn't seem to take to fences for me. While Rolling Aces has been off since for nearly 7 weeks now after making some serious errors last time out. His jumping has always been an issue. Wishful Thinking always runs a good race at Aintree, I should say, sorry. Run a perfectly respectable race behind Sierra de Grugy, but clearly 2.5 miles is trip, and you saw that in January when he beat Everything Came Right and he beat Double Ross. But I think that sums it up. When everything comes right. When does everything ever come right for Wishful Thinking? There's too many times where there's too many hard luck cases. He should run his race, I think, but there's other safer options. So if I'm going to pick a 1, 2, 3 in this, I'm happy to go with Module, definitely as my first pick in this, from Days Hotel. And you know what? You'd have to put Rajdhani Express in there purely because you know he stays a trip well, though I don't think he'll be winning today. Moving on to the 340, which is the Topham Chase, and this is a very interesting race indeed, the Topham, and that's because there's the likes of Double Ross who's in towards the top. This is a lot classier horse than usually goes in this style of race, and I think for that reason, the usual trend is over 10 stone 12, nothing can win the Topham. Don't believe that for 1 second anymore, because as I said, it's becoming a lot more higher profile what's been going on. Double Ross is an excellent jumper, and I think that's what it all comes down to here. He's got a lot of weight, but he's jumping, and he can do it from the front. Like Warm did yesterday, that could be exactly what he needs in this type of race. Wouldn't put anyone off backing him. Interesting horse as well, who I do like here, is Big Fella Thanks. Yes, he's 12. He never seemed to stay the Grand National trip for me fully. But you know what? Last time out, over 3 miles to Tranquil Sea, he came late and then, just faded out of it. But he always seems to run his race around the national fences. Soft ground was pretty much against him in the Beecher when he came 7th to Chance de Roy. But he jumped the last in 4th and just got tired on that ground, really. But he once again took perfectly well to the fences. It was almost a shock when he unseated last year at the 8th. because of his excellent record in this race, really. And I suppose that is half your battle. He's come seventh in a Grand National. He came fourth in another Grand National. If you actually look at his rating today, Big Fella Thanks is off the golden weight, which is 10 stone 12. Paddy Brennan had a win yesterday. He rates a really good bet, as does Tatnan for Richard Rowe and Andrew Thornton. Really good effort last time at Cheltenham and has been running and not getting home over the Grand National trips, but he does have the all-important form over these national fences. I can see him running an excellent race as well. An interesting one, if we're going right down to the bottom now, is Dunno in Point. Dunno in Point has had decent form over these national fences before. In fact, it was in this race last year when he came fourth to Triolo Deline, and it was a really bold effort from the front, and he just got tired in the last 100 yards. He then made his comeback in the Grand Sefton over the fences and was going perfectly well till 3 out and then just stopped dead. Since then, he's done absolutely nothing at all, which suggests to me that there's something not quite right with him. But he's thrown in on 10 stone 1, and that could be a very interesting pick indeed. You could make a lot of cases for a lot of other ones, and you would have to say that for a 1-2-3 today, I would go from for Big Fella Thanks to beat home Double Ross, and I would actually put old Tatnan in there as well to run a really good race. 4:15 is the Sefton Novices Hurdle, and the horse that I like in this is called Beat That for Nicky Henderson. He came second last time out. He's had a long time off, which is a bit of a worry, but he came second to Killala Key, given a weight last time out, and before then was very, very impressive, beating Champagne West. Being by Milan, I think the better ground will definitely suit him. He's fresh, whether he's too fresh is another point, and the step up to 3 mile is in his favour. He's my idea of a good bet in this. Capote for John Joe O'Neill and Tony McCoy is good. He's done nothing wrong, but everything he's done is on soft ground, so you're taking a huge leap of faith that the good ground will be in his favour today. Killala Key, the horse he mentioned, who actually beat that, then did nothing in heavy ground at Warwick, which is absolutely fine, and then run a really decent race, beating 6 lengths by Faugheen of Willie Mullins. So the form is kind of frank there, and I'm really happy with that, really. Giants of a Man's coming over for Desi Hughes, but once again, all of his major form has been on heavy going, though he's had some really, really impressive victories. It's a huge leap of faith. The likely favourite, and rightfully so, is Sandy Thompson's See You at Midnight. Won really impressively last time out, but once again, everything he's done is on soft and heavy going. The one thing that you do get is that his point-to-point win last April, so he goes well at this time of year, was on good ground, but he was all out at odds on, so that's not exactly a massive plus for me in this column. So I'm going to pick my 1-2-3 in this anyway, and I would have Beat That to beat home. Possibly I'd look at Giants of a Man, and you'd have to put in Capote on there, just purely because I think he's a type who could improve for this. The 4:50 is the Alder Hay Children's Charity Handicap Hurdle, and the horse I like here is a horse that went really well at Cheltenham for us actually, and that is Cad de Burley. I know he's in off top, but Harry Derham's reunited the partnership. He was only beaten 5.75 lengths at Cheltenham. Got a bit tied up the hill. I think this return to a flatter track will be right up his street. And he's relatively lightly raced. He's only had 4 runs this season. The better goings for him, and I'm happy to keep on the right side of this one while he's there. At a Glance is an interesting one, the co-top weight, because he came under, his jockey Brian Hughes came under a horrific pressure for his ride in the chase at Cheltenham when he tried to go up the inside rail when there was nothing there. He's switched back to hurdles today, and his hurdle form is not as good as his chase form. So for that reason, he's an interesting horse, but without going over the top. Like-Minded's interesting for Dan and Harry Skelton. He came third to Safir Daru when Safir Daru was in really good form back in January and easily beat Party Rock the time before that. Once again, a lot of the form on softish ground, but he does have some reasonably good form on good ground. But once again, you're taking a bit of a leap of faith. But he's off 11.4, and that's a decent mark for me. Cheltenham run no sort of race despite all the money for it at Cheltenham, and given his injury problems and his other issues, you have to take his form now with a pinch of salt, I'm afraid to say. While if you're looking for a bit of value, I always think in these type of races, have a look at Citizenship for Venetia Williams. Showed absolutely nothing last time out behind Lac Fontana. Well, the last twice, in fact, but I'm not convinced Cheltenham's his track. If you look back to December, though, we got a really good piece of form, asserting, and he's near the finish to beat the likes of the mixologist, who's done okay. But his form is very hit and miss. But now he's dropped to a record low mark. He's actually got some decent form in his early career on good ground. So if he somehow can recapture his best, and it could happen for this step up and trip, it could be another Venetia Williams blot. But as you said, you're really pushing the boat out to think that. But I'm going to pick a 1, 2, 3 in here. I'm actually happy to go with at Cad de Burley here. I think he's got a really good chance. I'm happy to put in like-minded with it, and I think it's one of those. I haven't really thought of a third place. You'd have to put at a glance in there purely because he's got good course and distance form and comes well at this type of year. The last race of today is the bumper race, and I really don't know there's nothing that stands out in this. Legacy Gold I really liked last year, but that's now completely and utterly changed. Because this year there's nothing that really stands out. The horse, though, that is of interest is Henry Daly's Tara Mist. Been beaten the last twice, which is a bit disconcerting, but it's run his race only been beaten 2 3/4 lengths and 4 lengths. However, they were on soft and heavy, on good going, ridden out, won on debut at Ludlow. Henry Daly does well with his horses here, so you'd have to say that this has got a really good chance of running his race today. Tony McCoy booking on Molly Cat for Alan Swinbank is a tip in itself, really. Won very easily the bumper, first time out in January, the junior bumper by 10 lengths, stayed wide, led on the bit and went clear. Then next time out, it was a jumpers for bumpers race, came second. Now, you know, being by Dylan Thomas, I think the good ground will be good for it. Jumpers for bumpers race, it's on the poly track thing, so you can kind of put a line through that. But based on his first run of the season, you'd have to say that could potentially be thrown in. Could be, though, is the operative words. Interesting one as well here is Miss Sassy Pants. Great name for Seamus Mullins. Won twice, run twice, won twice, beaten the same horse called Dorcas, actually. But both of this was last year. It showed a lot of determination, actually. But the worry is he's been off since then. Once again, could be a really interesting horse in this one. Avispa was favourite for a decent bumper at Sandown the week before Cheltenham, but faded, despite the money, just absolutely faded into nothing, and that is a massive worry, the way he went out. And yeah, I'm happy to go against this horse at the moment because you just don't know what's actually going to be done. The Skeltons are one of those, they're very good with the bumper horses, and they've had one in here called Amber Catan. He's only had one run, which was 3 weeks ago, but won it as easily as you like. When not fancied, held up, good headway, and drew away in the final furlong. This is a monumental step up in class, though. Now you're up to a listed class. But it's interesting that after only 18 days after the first run, they've thrown him in now at this standard, which says a lot to me that they obviously think this is one of the better ones in the yard. You can't ignore the Twist and Davises ever at Aintree, and Millicent Silver is going here. Beat one on its debut on heavy, and then came a good second to Lady Buttons at Wetherby. Been off since, but once again, everything on heavy ground. Will it go on good ground? There's no way we can really know, to be honest with you. And the final one to mention is number 1, Fergal O'Brien, Paddy Brennan, the Governess. Out of Cave Tara, so will clearly stay well. Beat Lily War very well at a bumper at Cheltenham in November. Lily War, though, has really let the form down since then. I had a look through, and beat Legacy Gold, actually, who won the bumper here last year. But Lily War last time out in the novice hurdle came third, but it was a listed standard, so I suppose actually I say it's let it down. Has it really? But since then, Lily War's only actually won once and has been turned over twice at odds on. So it's the depth of the form that it's just really hard to put a value on it, really. But the race that he won last time out was a listed race, and it's exactly the same as this. So clearly, Governess is of this standard because he's proven it already. It's just whether he finds an improver or two to go through today. But if I had to pick a 1, 2, 3 in this, I'd be tempted to go for Molly Cat, actually. Won well on its debut, a good second on the poly track, which you can take it or leave it, really. So I'm happy to go with Molly Cat on here to beat Tara Mist. And you'd have to put the Governess in. I'd have to say you'd have to put the Governess in purely because he's been there, done it before. Okay, well, hopefully we get some more winners. I'm going to be doing 2 videos for tomorrow. I'm going to do my usual go through all 40 horses in the Grand National, which actually means 40 horses that probably won't win, given my record in this over the last few years. And I'll also do one for the actual races at Aintree tomorrow. If you're going today, good luck, and yeah, hopefully we win a few quid. Cheers.